Thank you so much, Robin. My name is Abe Uchatel, and I'm the county legislator that represents the district that we're all in right now. And in 2021, I introduced the first ever in New York State county-level good cause eviction law. I'm very, very pleased that the city of Kingston passed their good cause eviction law so that my neighbors and my constituents here in this district are going to be protected. But unfortunately, the problem that we've been facing with evictions and with skyrocketing rents has been happening for a long time. So many of the people that I called my neighbors years ago are now my neighbors in Kingston, and those folks need to be protected too, and that's why we need something at the county level. I also have many neighbors that have had to leave Kingston and are now our distant neighbors out in Catskill, and they're not protected at all. And that's why we need to pass good cause eviction at the state level. Only by working at the state level are we able to align the definitions of housing and the human right of housing with our legislation, with our laws, so that we can truly protect New Yorkers. And as Alderman Scott Childress said, we will never be sure about the survival of our laws as lawyers start to attack them, and the attacks are already beginning. While I hoped that we would have passed county law by now, our county ethics board felt that legislators who are also landlords have a conflict of interest, and we're at a bit of a standstill. The reality is we're a part-time legislature, and there are a handful of legislators, many of which actually support good cause eviction, that are themselves landlords and have now been told not to vote, and also not to discuss or help shape the law. This is obviously something that I do not agree with. This interpretation of a conflict of interest for a legislator who has to earn their living in the community is absolutely crazy. You would never tell a farmer, and we're blessed to have multiple farmers in our county legislature, you would never tell a farmer that they can't vote on an agricultural district. So we're not going to let this deter us. But while we're working on updating our ethics laws, we also need to see action at the state level, and I encourage the state to focus on this immediately. While they focus on this, the county legislature is not going to just sit idly by and not do anything. We have taken steps. One of the most important steps that I think we've taken as we enter this new year is we've completely reorganized the way that we think about housing in the county legislature. No longer is housing going to be the product of and the purview of our Economic Development Committee. It is now going to be the purview of our Public Health Committee. And that is because housing is a public health crisis when we're facing eviction, not a driver of economic profit. And that's why we're putting it under public health. We also oversee the sheriff's office and the sheriff's budget. And I am the chairman going into this year of the law enforcement committee. I met with the sheriff earlier today, and I intend to continue meeting with him as often as is necessary to hear what's going on the ground regarding these evictions. The sheriff has a very small civil division, and usually I'm not a small government kind of guy, but this is a division that we can keep small because they can't process too many evictions too quickly, and we'll let that pace itself. But this civil division isn't tasked only with protecting landlords and helping with evictions. They're also tasked with protecting tenants. And that's why I want to make sure that our civil division in our county sheriff's office is going to be steadfast in making sure that tenants are not evicted illegally and they are not intimidated by their landlords, who themselves could face criminal charges if they intimidate tenants to try and get around any of the legislation or any of the existing rules around eviction. We're very, very fortunate to have Sheriff Figueroa at the county level. He was actually, when we first started having calls about COVID in March of 2020, I asked if we could, just while we're figuring this out, the first week when there was a case in New Rochelle, we didn't know what was going on, can we just pause evictions? Sheriff Figueroa immediately jumped in and said, we will pause evictions while we figure out what's going on. And before long, there was a state eviction moratorium. we were the first county to publicly say that we were pausing evictions, and I'm very grateful to Sheriff Figueroa for doing that, and I'm optimistic that he's going to, and I'm very confident actually, that he's going to be a good partner with the county legislature and with the residents of Ulster County as we make sure that as many people as possible can stay in their homes. So we are going to keep fighting, we are going to rewrite our ethics law, we're going to do whatever we need to do to make sure that as many of our neighbors, as many of our constituents as possible, whether it's Kingston or Kerhonkson or Ellenville or Marlborough, they're going to be able to stay in their homes, and we are going to protect them. So I appreciate For the Many putting this together, and I encourage everyone to reach out to their state representatives, reach out to their county legislators, two of which are here, and we'd love to hear from you. And make sure you always email the clerk so that the whole legislature, I know this is a little bit inside baseball, but when you email us, make sure you always copy the clerk, because then it goes to the whole legislature, because Phil and I, we know, because we see it every day in Kingston, but some of our colleagues definitely need to hear from you, and I really, really appreciate it. Thank you.